Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 54. We got a little free agent frenzy for you. We got the whole threesome back together. We're brought to you by Dynasty Theory in partnership with Dynasty Daddy, and as always, Fantasy Football Infinity. What's going on, guys?
Not much, man. Just we started doing some startups already, like true degenerates. So it's
That's
been
us.
fun, man. Football's not even over yet, and we're already looking forward to 2024. Well, at least
Yeah,
Hallard and I are.
I'm
Ron
yeah,
and
fired
the
up.
Lions are still.
The
I'm
rookies
having a
are
great time.
the rookies are in on sleeper. I am fired
Hmm.
up. I got rookie fever. Let's go.
Hills, yes. Yeah, the rookies into sleeper. That was super exciting to see today. We got a whole bunch of coaching news popping in here in the past week. Let's get into that a little bit here. We got the Raiders hire Antonio Pierce as their head coach.
Let's
McSpankster, why don't you hit
go.
us with the knowledge on
Let's
Antonio Pierce
go.
since you are the Raiders guy?
All right. So Antonio Pierce, real good. He was 5-4 as interim head coach. Players, I mean, I think you could tell if you watched them from the first half of the year under Josh McDaniels to when Antonio Pierce took over. I mean, it was a total shift, and I think the players were playing harder. Um, that's really exciting. I think he was the right guy. I know there were some rumors about potentially Jim Harbaugh coming to the Raiders, but I think Pierce was the right hire. The GM hire that we got, Tom Telesco from the Chargers, that's a different story, but we'll figure that out. But I think the real important thing for the Raiders is that um, with Antonio Pierce being a first time head coach, he needs some like veteran coaches on the staff, whether they're the coordinators or just like analysts, those kind of guys to kind of help teach him some of the like game management kind of things and like situational stuff,
Yes.
just like how to run a team kind of deal. But I think from a team perspective, this has to be like attractive for free agents, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to get guys to come in,
Mhm.
especially with no state income tax in Nevada. This should be, I don't know. I'm excited. There's hope.
Is
After the Josh McDaniels experiment, there's some hope again in Vegas. So we'll see.
is Brandon Graham staying the defensive coordinator, or is that going to be
They haven't
recycling?
said yet, but I hope so. He did really well. It's
Yeah.
supposedly like
I-
Josh McDaniels told him like no to the kind of defense that he wanted to run, and basically was like, "You're going to run what I want you to do." And then once he was gone, that's when the defense started playing good. When they actually let the defensive coordinator, call the defense. So
And the
shocker.
offensive guy walks into your room and tells you.
Yeah,
Should have just got up and
it's just
walked out at that point. Nope.
just a joke, but
I'm done here.
So,
All right.
I, real quick, I think this is a really good hire. They played really well under him. But I
Yeah.
think what's going to be super important is who they bring in for the offense.
Yeah.
Kind of like what McSpanky already said. I'm kind of I was a little disappointed when they brought over the general manager from the Chargers. I think he does an okay job. He brings in some solid players. Like there are a lot of good players on the Chargers team, but I just think I think they could have done a little bit better there. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, is going to be the offensive coordinator, because I think Antonio Pierce does a really good job of, he has that locker room. The players love him. So it'll be interesting for that team to take the next step. Is they really need to bring in somebody like an offensive guy for sure. Hopefully
Yeah,
not Cliff.
definitely.
he's supposed to interview
Yeah.
next week.
Cliff's
Yeah,
getting
hopefully not.
interviews everywhere, it seems like. It's pretty wild. Um, Next up, we got the Chargers hired Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh. How you guys feel about this one? Holler, you're right there in LA. Let us know.
Yeah, so I was telling the guys before, I was on the way to the gym when the breaking news came in, and so I listened to the sports radio, and so most people like him. I think he was the best head coach on the market.
Yeah.
But like anything, it will really depend on what the owner is going to let him do. If they let him bring in his own coaches, bring in his own, like, not his own general manager, but kind of help in the bringing in a general manager, I think the team could turn around a lot. The big issue though there is they're in cap hell. So I think right away though, most people are gonna think, hey, this guy needs to win the AFC. AFC West, excuse me. And so that's going to be tough. But I think if they make the playoffs, that's going to be a success for him, right? And I think if they can get out of cap, after a year or two, I think he's going to have some success there, especially because he has Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Go ahead,
Ron.
I'll just get real hot takey, and I'll just tell you right now, the Chargers are going to overachieve in the 2024 season from what everybody expects from them. I guarantee that. That's what Jim Harbaugh does with his mediocre teams, is he gets them to overachieve just a little bit. It might be by 1 or 2 games, but I think they're going to probably surprise a little bit with the things they do. I'm not a huge Jim Harbaugh guy. I'm a Michigan State guy, so just by virtue, I have to not like Jim Harbaugh. But he is a really good football coach, and he does get the best out of what the players that he does have there, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Harbaugh. He's happened to coach it for teams that I just don't like pretty much his whole career. So,
and he's an unlikable guy.
Yeah, and he doesn't do himself any favors with his personality, but he is a good football coach. I do think they need. So I just pulling up the numbers. Holler, you alluded to it. They're 45 million, almost 46 million over the cap. So they got some bad contracts that need to get out of. I'm curious to see what they do in the draft. I know, traditionally, I mean, Harbaugh likes to run like a power, running offense, and I think Eckler's gone. So what are they going to do? And Isaiah Spiller, I don't think is necessarily the answer. They have a lot of free agents. I mean, Everett's gone. I think Keenan Allen, Mike Williams might be cap casualties this year. So we'll see.
And unfortunately, we'll get into it, but unfortunately, like in the draft, there's not many running backs. Like there's some solid ones, but there's not some very good running backs, right? And they don't have, and I also don't think they have like Isaiah Spiller, Josh Kelly. I don't think Josh Kelly, he might still be under contract, but neither of those guys are going to get it done. Right?
I was just going to say, just book it, Blake Corum to the Chargers.
Yeah, it's totally possible.
But yeah, I agree. It's a run game and it's deep shots, and I mean Herbert can do that. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Josh Kelly is a free agent, by the way.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I think this is a really good hire for the Chargers overall. Like they usually do dumb things, and so I think they got it right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I was impressed by the hire. He's one of the best. Like I said before, one of the best. He was one of the best on the market. So. Ooh, I love it, Wes.
Yeah, Wes is having a great time tonight.
just traditionally just screwed up on a lot of things, and it's been one of the worst run franchises.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how much power they're going to give over to Harbaugh to let him do things the way
that's going to be the telltale. I think is if they can give him some power, let him do his thing. I think it'll be all right.
Yeah, he's such an odd duck, and we know that he's got to have his things his way. We got to think that he got everything that he wanted in that contract. Because I mean, he could honestly, you could go to the Chargers or you could go to the Falcons, and I would think that, man, super good places to be, because the Falcons have all the talent, in the positions outside of the quarterback. In LA, you get the quarterback, so pick your poison here. What you want to do? Is kind of how I see those two teams.
I'm kind of surprised he didn't go to Atlanta. That's the more attractive spot to me. But
yeah,
I agree.
Speaking of Atlanta has had 2 interviews with Coach Bill Belichick. It makes me want to vomit. I don't want Bill Belichick anywhere near
Vrabel too, right?
Atlanta. They have had Vrabel in. I would take Vrabel as long as he doesn't bring Arthur Smith back with him. Oh my Lord! What a nightmare that would be.
I don't think so.
They got to put it in a contract or something, or Mike's got to be smart enough to know, man, I can't sell this to them. But yeah, because I feel like if Bill gets hired, he's just gonna bring in McDaniels, and we're just gonna be like, what the hell is this, man? I don't want to see that again.
I'd be more worried
Patriots
that Vrabel gets the job and brings in Tannehill as the quarterback instead of getting a real quarterback again.
Yep.
That's fair. It's possible.
And
they keep
for what it's worth,
around.
Josh McDaniels is a good offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he is.
I agree. Not a great person or or a head coach, but he actually can call plays pretty well. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
will
I
give him that.
find it interesting that the Falcons are just interviewing absolutely everybody. I think I I personally think they should go the route of a younger head coach. Like the Ben Johnson or the other defensive coordinator from the Lions. I think would be really good. So
Aaron Glenn.
yeah, Aaron Glenn. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think the Falcons have really good pieces. So like Spanky said, I think Harbaugh to the Falcons would have been a little more more appealing for him, I thought. But LA, it's
Right.
Atlanta versus LA. Where do you want to go?
This both
The
got
Aaron
warm
Glenn
weather,
thing
I guess.
surprises me, just because
With the interviews.
just because the defense hasn't. It's been fine, but that's been the problem with
Yeah,
the
I got
Lions,
you.
right? Like
Yeah, so what I will say is like the run defense has drastically improved, as they've
Sure.
said on the national media, quite some time. They also finally poured resources into it for like the first time since they've been in town. We did also try to sign 2 corners, and Sutton is probably fine as a number 2, but he's having to play the number 1 because Mosley recovered from his ACL, then retore his ACL the second play that he was able to play this season. So I think he kind of got hurt a little bit there. As you can tell, there's one receiver that always goes off. But from what everybody says, there's like a player vote. Like players love Aaron Glenn. I think it's more of like a leadership thing as opposed to just his defensive prowess at that point in time. And I mean, when the defense needs to make a play, they do make a play. So
That's
take for that what you will in this offensive era of NFL football.
That's more what I was thinking. Is just more. He's more of a good leader, than having a really good defense or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see where the Falcons go.
Definitely will. Excited for that hiring to happen. We have the Bears are hiring the former Seahawks offensive coordinator Shane Waldron as their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, that was worded weird. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. What does this mean for Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, and Geno Smith? I put Geno Smith in there because my whole thing with Geno in Seattle was as long as Waldron was retained, I thought that Geno was pretty safe. I'm much more nervous about Geno now. I know the quarterback landscape is really bad. I'm more so nervous that the Seahawks will swing for moving up. I don't know, paying somebody. Would they bring Russ back? I don't know.
I don't think
No,
so.
I don't see that happening. I still this one is still up in the air for me. I don't really know exactly what's going to happen with Justin Fields. Obviously, there's so many things. I personally think they should just. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think they should just move on. Go to Caleb Williams, trade Justin Fields, see what they can get. And I think this would be good for Caleb Williams. I don't. He did a really good job. Waldron did a really good job with Geno. So it'll, if Justin Fields stays, this should be good for Justin Fields. But I think he's moving on.
I think he's gone. I think very rarely, if your team is drafting the first overall pick 2 years in a row, do you get retained as the quarterback?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's the right decision, but I think this feels like that's the move, right?
Yep.
Well, I mean, the thing is you can't pay Justin Fields off of what you've seen. What sort of deal can you give him to stay in Chicago at this point in time when he just he flashes and he does the fantasy stuff well because he runs the ball. But
I think you would have to give him like the Jordan Love kind of prove it deal.
Right.
Which I don't know.
Agreed.
Well, he's up for his 5th year option, right? Field is.
I believe
so, one more year.
Is it one more?
It might be one more.
Let's take a look.
Oh, while you figure that out, the Titans have hired Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan. I didn't really know that he was a hot name for getting into the head coaching circuit. It wasn't a name that I had heard thrown around much. I kind of knew who he was.
Super young.
Man, yeah, very young, and he's he's gotten to work with some really super talented guys, and he's going to a place that literally has zero talent on the roster.
Hey,
Derrick Henry's
Will
walking
Levis.
out the door. Yeah, no thanks. You have a decrepit DeAndre Hopkins at this point, over 30 years old. Does he stick around? You have the enigma that is Treylon Burks and Tyjae Spears.
So I think what kind of got him, I don't know for sure, but this is kind of my hunch, is what got attention is how well he did with Browning, right? And so they kind of stayed afloat. They were still in the playoff hunt, and I think I'm sure he's done more, but I think that's what got him, the
Sure,
not necessarily got him the job, but what got his name out there a little bit more.
sure.
He did a good job. But like you just said, there's not much there. I personally am not a believer in Will Levis. I like Tyjae Spears. They need wide receivers. They need everything there. So it's going to be a tough job for him.
I agree.
It's hard to say, but I think he's a good offensive mind. We'll see what he does. I think say what you want about Levis. I mean, he showed more to me than like Bryce Young did, right?
Yeah, I agree
mean,
with that.
Fair.
I mean, I don't know. His decision making is questionable at times, but dude's got a hell of an arm. I mean, he's got an absolute cannon. So we'll see if they can rein that in a little bit. And who knows? Maybe some of the Bengals wide receivers. I mean, we'll talk about it in a little bit. But T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are both free agents. I mean, who says they don't go follow their boy down to Tennessee and go?
They could. That's a good call on T. Higgins there and Tyler Boyd. We have the Eagles firing the offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson. Seems like that was due. But also it kind of seems like you put some of the blame on Jalen Hurts' feet, who's out here calling audibles because he doesn't like the plays a la Aaron Rodgers.
Well, we will see what happens next year. If the offense looks better or if it's still the same crap, we can see who's the blame for real. But
yeah.
The
I just
Eagles
think that you could put some of it on Jalen. I'm not gonna totally crap on him. I'm just saying, like, if you're out here and this dude is trying, like, hey man, run this, that, the other, and he's like, nah, dude, I'm audible into all go balls. We saw how well that worked for him against Tampa Bay. So
the Eagles did not look right for the last 6-7 weeks. So I personally think they needed to get rid of the head coach. I think he's really easy to hate, but I do not like Sirianni. But he does an okay job with the team. But I agree with you, Ron. I think that there's a little bit of you can put a little blame on Jalen Hurts. He needs to do a better job for sure.
Yeah. They fired their defensive coordinator as well, so they really had to clean house for him to keep Sirianni to keep his job.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works out. That's 3 new coordinators in 3 years now in Philadelphia on both sides of the ball, I believe.
I heard a rumor that Vic Fangio they let the Dolphins let him go. It was like mutual, and he might sign or he might
sounds like it's a
go over the Eagles. Yeah. Which would be good, I think. He's a really good defensive coordinator.
I mean, the Dolphins defense wasn't great this year, though.
No, but
I'm going to look something up. It was good until all their pass rushers went down. It actually really was.
That's fair.
Yeah,
they lost
had a lot of
3
injuries.
pass rushers across the – I want to look something up, though, because I think that Fangio might have been Jim Harbaugh's defensive coordinator at one point. For San Francisco.
I think
so.
The reasoning,
a mutual parting of ways.
Yeah, and the reasoning was to be closer to family in I think it's Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or not Philadelphia. I think it was Pittsburgh. And so I don't think he would go out to LA. That's not closer to family. So that's actually farther. So I think it's kind of almost a done deal with Fangio going over to the Eagles.
That sounds fair. I wish they made that easier. I don't know.
Just a little tidbit here. The 5th year is in 2025 for Justin Fields. 2024 is year 4.
Perfect.
Should we dive into these free agents now? March 11th, the start of the legal tampering period.
Yes.
All right. So number one on the list, probably the most important quarterback domino that we have here, Kirk Cousins. What happens to old Kirk? Does Minnesota pay Kirk to keep him around? Bless you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Or does Kirk pack his bags and head out?
I feel like it would make sense for him to stay in Minnesota just because he's familiar with that offense. He knows it, and we've seen some of these guys who leave for greener pastures, and maybe things don't work out as well. I don't think. So I saw that. We can talk about that. What Wes brought up. So Cousins, I think, said something like, "Oh, it'd be tempting to play for a Hall of Fame coach and Bill Belichick, but it would be interesting to see if he was in Atlanta with, Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan. I think that would be kind of cool to see. I think for like a fantasy perspective, I would like Cousins to either stay in Minnesota or go to Atlanta with all those weapons.
Yeah, those are the two good spots for Cousins, and I think we've talked about it before. I just think it just seems right for him to go back to Minnesota. But I could totally see him going with Bill if Bill Belichick goes over to Atlanta, and that would be really nice for fantasy.
Did you guys Did you guys watch the Netflix quarterback thing?
A little bit
before the season.
Bit.
Yeah.
So Cousins like flat out said he wants to stay in Minnesota. Like, we just built this house. We this, that, the other. I mean, things can change. An Achilles injury is nothing to sneeze at, and all that stuff. A whole season happens. Like I said, things change. But at one point, he wanted to get a new deal done in Minnesota.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I think he wants to be in Minnesota. I think he's a off the field stuff. He's a family guy. I mean, all of his his kids, they all seem like they like it in Minnesota. I don't think you want to necessarily uproot all your family if you can help it. They just built that house. He's probably got a ton of Kohl's cash.
Right. He does.
At the Minneapolis Kohl's there. You don't want to just throw that away. So.
You do not. Are you guys going to go out and buy Kirk Cousins?
I have been. So I talked about a little bit at the start of the show. We did a couple startups recently. I happened to draft him in both. But I got him in the 7th round and the 8th round. So quarterback 19 and 18 off the board as my QB3 in both leagues, which I feel like that's really good about. I don't know. What are you guys thinking about Cousins? Obviously, I'm all over it. But.
So I think those are both really good value. I think it would mainly, like anything though, it would depend on how, like, I would take him on a contender if I needed a third quarterback, or even if I needed my second quarterback. And I think it would depend on the price. I was hoping like maybe you could send him away or get him for like a early second if you're in dire need of a wide receiver, or excuse me, a quarterback, and like say the person that has him needs a wide receiver or needs a running back. I think that would be a good little match. I don't know if I would buy him for a first at all. Maybe though.
I think you'd have to get him off of a roster.
Yeah, because I think now that I say it out loud, is I think I don't think you would want to move him for an early second. I'd rather just keep him.
Yeah, I think it could definitely be roster dependent. Older roster maybe looking to turn it over, but I only want to add Kirk as my quarterback 3 right now. Like, I don't want to have to rely on Kirk right now because we haven't heard much about his recovery or anything. We probably won't until we get closer, to the midsummer and there's nothing going on. Like, I think he's gonna be fine, but I don't want to completely rely on that.
That's the thing. Like, he wasn't exactly mobile before. So what? I mean, how much is the Achilles really going to impact him? Other than, I mean, he should still be able to move around the pocket, which is all he really needs to do at this point.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Minshew Mania.
Gardner Minshew, baby. What do you think? Is he going to start in 2024?
Let's see.
Personally, I would take him over Ryan Tannehill.
I would too. I kind of was thinking earlier, when I was, being my Raiders GM here, and I was like, it would be kind of sick. What if the Raiders got Gardner Minshew and just let him come in there and just sling that thing around to Devontae Adams about 30 times a game?
Jacoby, yeah.
Right?
That'd be nice.
I could see him going there. I could see him going to Atlanta, getting a job. I could see him going to Tennessee, and maybe back and forth a little bit with Will Levis if things went badly. I could see him going to the Giants. Things go badly for Daniel Jones. They got somewhere to fall back on.
Honestly, he might just stay in Indianapolis. I mean, he knows the offense there. He did well. I mean, Anthony Richardson, he played in 5 games and he finished 2 of them, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
if I was the Indianapolis, I would definitely. Yep, that's a possibility as well.
Makes a ton of sense.
So there's a lot of options for him, and so I do think.
Yeah, I think
the question is he going to be a starter in 2024? I think it's possible, or I think he goes back to Indianapolis, and then I don't want to say this, but eventually, once Richardson gets injured, just the way he plays, Minshew will be the starter again.
I mean, even if he's only kind of some spot starts for like 2 to 3 weeks, like he's a good guy to have on the roster. He's been around the league for quite a while, even though he's not like old himself. Like I think he's a good guy to have in a quarterback room to help a young quarterback kind of developing and learning the NFL.
Definitely. I think that puts Washington on the board as well for him, or New England. I don't know. They still have Zappy and Mac Jones, so I don't know what's happening in New England right now. Okay, Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill going to get a job, or is he just going to be a backup the rest of his career?
I think he's a backup.
I would hope he's a backup, but I think we've talked about it before. I think, or we talked about it earlier. I think he could follow Vrabel possibly, which I hope he doesn't do, but I think it's possible he could follow Vrabel. Just depends on where he lands and what the quarterback situation is.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Kind of the same open spots we would expect to possibly see him in. And, we didn't mention Minnesota for Gardner if possibly Kirk doesn't resign there or if Kirk takes some time to get his legs underneath him.
That would be smart for Minnesota as well because they didn't really have – I mean, they had Dobbs, but he didn't finish, so.
I think Denver, too, could be somebody to watch for. I know they paid Stidham that money, but I don't think it was overly lucrative money by any stretch of the means, so they could go a different way. He might be a little too wild for Sean Payton, though.
Sure, Stidham's not he's not a long-term answer.
No.
I don't think so either.
Definitely not.
Okay, I put Russell Wilson on here. I know he's not a free agent now, but he's expected to be a cut and available to the highest bidder. So he might as well be a free agent at this point. I don't think anybody trades for him, considering I would guess that they shopped him all year long if they're willing to just come out and say, hey, we're cutting this dude.
And
he'll be available.
There's no way that someone's going to trade for him now that they came out and said they're just going to cut him. There's no reason to trade for him.
Yeah.
The rumor I heard is that he wanted to go to Las Vegas. It was one of the few spots he wanted to go when he was leaving Seattle the first time around. And supposedly that's the new hotness is that he wants to be in Las Vegas. I don't know if the Raiders want him, but he supposedly.
What do you think of that, McSpankster?
I mean, what are we just taking the rest of the AFC West leftovers? We're getting the Chargers GM. We're getting the Broncos old quarterback. From the Chiefs. Why don't we take Kadarius Toney while we're at it for the?
Do it.
The Chiefs.
Man, I don't like that.
I don't know. There's some good options for Russell Wilson. Like Atlanta would be. He's not the same, obviously, but I do think he could do a solid job in Atlanta. There's really good pieces there. I do think he could do a solid job. Do a solid job in Vegas as well. So West says Raiders country. Let's ride.
Here's the thing with Russell Wilson. It's it's kind of the same with Kirk Cousins. From a fantasy perspective, they're going to be fine. From a real life football, is signing either of those guys going to help you win a Super Bowl? Probably not, right?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Baker Mayfield. We kind of think he's going to be back in Tampa unless he
For
really
sure.
screws over the negotiations or something wild happens here.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to just kind of run it back. Hopefully, get some pieces in the draft. I think they have a solid amount of cap open, so I think they might sign somebody. I think their defense is solid. Their coach is doing a really good job. If I just worry a little bit if it was just kind of like a hot year for Baker, but if he can do the same thing, that team is solid.
That's who Baker is, though. He's
Yeah,
real
he's a
streaky.
streaky. Yeah,
100%.
he's this very streaky guy. Yeah. I just still
100%.
picture him slamming that flag into Ohio State's. I've kind
So
of
good.
always liked Baker ever since that moment, and then he did the whole like grabbing his junk at the other sideline. And I was kind of like, Baker, you
At
kind of got to
Kansas, of
chill.
all teams? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, Baker, you got to kind of chill a little bit, and then you kind of do something else that's kind of funny, and then you kind of do something else that's kind of dumb. Baker.
Fun to watch, though. Like, say what you want about
He
Baker.
is.
He's a good
Yeah.
personality. He's entertaining. So
Yeah, he very much so. Very much so.
Wes
should we move on
thinks
to running back?
we're not quite to wide receivers yet, but Wes thinks Evans is on his way out of Tampa Bay. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, we'll get to Evans. We got Derrick Henry leaving the Titans. They handed this man a microphone on the field after the Titans' last game. So it's definitely
He's
out of
on his
town.
way out.
Somebody asked in here if he's got anything left in the tank. I think he does have something left in the tank. I think that it was just such a terrible situation. Is he the Derrick Henry of old and can carry the entire load? Hell no, probably not that Derrick Henry. But can he come in here and bang some bodies, in between the tackles for a little bit for you? Yes, he can. Yes, he can, because he's a freak of nature.
Yeah.
banging some bodies, huh?
I think a nice landing spot could be Dallas.
Yeah.
I think that'd be nice. There's some really good like spots, but I think he's going to be a complimentary guy now. A little bit older. I think that'd be nice. I think he's got more in the tank than Eckler. We'll get to Eckler in a second here, but I do think he's got more in the tank left than Eckler does. When he ran, he looked solid still. I just think that team wasn't really going anywhere, and so they wanted to use Tajay Spears a bit more to see what he had. I think he'll land somewhere, and he'll be a good complimentary back.
Do you want Derrick Henry on your dynasty rosters? It's got to be pretty cheap at this point, right?
If I can get him for a mid 2, yep.
Do you think?
Yeah,
is that realistic?
Probably not. Nothing I say is ever realistic when I send a trade.
For what it's worth, JB said he has him around a non-playoff 25-second. So and
that's
the
fair.
205 to 2.
That's like a mid 2. This is a mid 2.
So
look at that.
A mid 2 might be.
Let me pull up here and see.
Here's the thing: if while you're pulling it up, Holler, if you really do trade like a mid-second, and it doesn't, and let's say he has nothing left, right? That doesn't screw your team over at all, right? If you miss on a mid-second, because really the hit rate on a mid-second rookie pick, anyways, is it's pretty bad, right? So
that's cool.
In one of our current startups, this he went at 11-12, and I think that's solid value, to be honest.
Yeah, man, the vets really fell. The old running backs. I think I picked Aaron Jones kind of late too as well, and I was eyeing Derrick Henry when he got taken as well.
And
so I think there's 3 spots I would like to see Derrick Henry go.
Okay,
Miami, Philly, and Dallas. I don't know if he could make it work in Miami, but I feel like bringing a physical element to that offense, right. That's all predicated on speed. There's no physicality to it. You know what I mean? Maybe you can put something physical back there and just kind of threaten people a little bit.
Yeah,
I agree.
I like it. It'll be I wonder what they do with Mostert. They might just bring him back, but I think he would be really good. A-Chain would be a nice compliment to him, or vice versa.
I just
But
want the
look-
visual of A-Chan standing next to Derek.
Next
Henry.
to yeah, right. That would be so
That'd
good.
Sweet. Okay, should we move on to Josh Jacobs here?
Yeah,
Do you think he's played his last snaps for the Raiders?
I do.
Yeah.
I think he was able to come back at the end of last year, and he chose not to because I think he's done. And
Yeah.
I think with them bringing in new leadership, I know Antonio Pierce. I don't know how much of a say he's going to have in it, but I mean, a new GM. Who didn't draft him. I think they're happy to just say like, hey, let's take Samir White. We have him under a cheap rookie contract. Let's maybe spend a 4th round pick on like a Jalen Wright from Tennessee or a Bucky Irving from Oregon to kind of help with the pass catching and let's spend our money elsewhere on different needs. So I think Jacobs is out the door. I don't know where he goes, but I think he's got a lot left in the tank, and I think he's one of the few running backs who actually will get a contract somewhere. I don't know where, but I think him and Saquon are the two that are likely to actually get like a decent money.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm with you. I don't think he lands back in Vegas, but I'll have to think about where he could go. I mean, there's a lot of options.
Honestly, Philly would be kind of cool with Hurts.
Yeah.
And
kind of the same options we said for Derrick Henry. I mean, those are the big 3 that need a running back. And
can I add one more in there? I think that
please do.
Could use a running back. Minnesota.
Yes, 100%.
I think Minnesota would be a good landing spot for any of these guys.
How about Houston? I know they have Damian Pierce, but they always seem to want to use him.
Devin Singletary, baby.
Who's a free agent, by the way.
Yeah.
Is he?
He is.
Poor Devin, man. Dude finally gets his usage and shows up, and then they're like, nope. Anyway, Saquon Barkley. Saquon's still a stud. He's still a freak of nature. I'm still down with Saquon. I took him in that startup. I don't care. I think people are a little bit low on him. He was still running back 8 on the year on a garbage New York Giants team where he probably was the only offensive weapon for 90% of the season.
Sure. I think New York brings him back.
I think so too.
I think I'm blanking on his name now. The Giants head coach.
Dable.
I think he's a smart guy. I think he knows like Daniel Jones ain't it, and if he wants to keep his job, he better have Saquon back there and wrapped up nicely. So
yeah, that's a good point.
So in the recent startup, he was in one of them I'm in. He was drafted at 6'6". And then Ron, you took him I know it was super late in ours. Oh, and you took him at 6'9". So it was pretty much the same in both startups.
Like when I saw him there, I just couldn't resist it at that point. I'm like, dude, he's the running back 8 is, all the way down here in the 6th.
10th.
I mean, he went the 10th running back off the board on that one.
Yep.
Which I mean, guys like Rashad White and Kyron Williams went in front of him. Kenneth Walker, H.A.N., who's unproven to an extent. ETN, which I think I understand. I mean, I did that one, so
I'll accept the Kenneth Walker, ETN, H.A.N. Yes,
I mean,
yes and no. I can make a case both ways, but like Kyron and Rashad, man, I can't take those.
Kyron's the one that's interesting to me because if he has the same role he did last year, then yes, I get it. If they bring someone else in, then it's, Saquon's going to be a bell cow. Kyron and Rashad White, for that matter, too. Like they might get some of their volume.
Yeah, I could see. I could see Tampa Bay bringing in a rookie and taking a little bit away from Rashad's a rookie that does something a little bit different, like Estime maybe.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Eckler is washed. I believe it. Unfortunately, don't take him in your startups. He's washed.
Yeah,
he looked like
he's done.
He looked like he was running through mud.
Is he like this year's like Dalvin Cook, where you just kind of let someone else just fall on that grenade and it doesn't matter and just hope that he doesn't screw up your other dynasty shares of like young running backs?
I think so.
Yeah. I agree. What are you gonna? if he's on your roster, what are you going to trade him away for at this point?
What is somebody willing to pay me?
That's what I was just going to say.
You'll take anything.
Basically,
I
mean,
will.
anything in any second, I will take. I
Okay.
don't care where it is. I don't care if it's the 212. I don't care if it's next year's 212. Basically, just take it.
And I might take. Well, if anyone's going to get him, it would be a late third. So I don't know if I'd do that. I might.
Oh,
I mean, because
man.
like if it would be a late third, I was going to say, I would take an early third, but I don't think if your team is not, if you're in the beginning of the third, your team's probably not that good. So there's no way you're going to go and grab.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So I don't think I'd rather just hold him than a late third. So give me a late, like you said, Spank, give me a late second and I'll send him away.
Yeah, I think I got a couple Ecklers floating.
He's probably dying on your roster is probably what's
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Out of like looking at all these, there's some other ones that are like not the same name, but out of these bigger names of the free agents, like I think this Eckler could be just like Dalvin Cook.
I don't see anyone paying him just based on how bad he looked last year. And I don't know. I mean, he did get injured, so maybe he wasn't healthy. But
sure.
I mean,
he always wants the bag too, man. He always wants the whole thing and all of it. For being such a good dude, man. He's Tony Pollard. Is Dallas the best spot for him? It's a good spot if Derrick Henry shows up and gets him back to that 14 touch freaking look.
I think we learned Tony Pollard can't handle that big of a workload. And he needs someone else. He needs to be the 1B.
Who would have thought Memphis knew what they were doing with Antonio Gibson and Tony Pollard and all these guys?
Is it weird that Memphis just randomly had all these dudes, these like running backs, like for many years in a row?
It's super weird. I mean, SMU's churning out wide receivers, Cortland Sutton, Rashee Rice, and I feel like there's somebody else that randomly.
Isn't that where Antonio Brown played?
No, he played at Central Michigan. I don't know why I just pulled that out of a hat, but
wow,
Michigan. You know all about everything about Michigan. We need to know. So
listen, don't tell the people that because they'll start getting questions about.
It was the other receiver, Emmanuel Sanders. That's who I was thinking of.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
He played at SMU.
Okay. Devin Singletary, we kind of hit on him a little bit. I think he goes back into Houston, just kind of with the no, Josh Downs was in North Carolina last. Devin Singletary. Anyway, I think he goes back to Houston just because of what this running back class affords you, and I think there's probably other pressing matters on their roster.
I think if Slowick stays in Houston, they bring him back. If not, I don't know if Singletary resigns.
Has Slowick been getting still been getting head coaching interviews? Because I know he was a hot name for a little bit, but I haven't heard his name mentioned in like a week. So
yeah, I haven't heard anything recently. I think hopefully he stays in Houston. I think he.
I don't know. I'm the sign stealer.
He's everywhere. That's fantastic.
Oh.
Let's hit on a couple more of these real quick in the running back class. J.K. Dobbins, who knows what he does? I agree. I think the Ravens bring him back on cheap deal. A.J. Dillon, part of me thinks he's dead. But who knows? I could see, I could see them bringing him back as well. He's a solid compliment, but I could also, their team is so young that I could see them picking up a running back in the draft. Antonio Gibson. I don't know. Zach Moss. I don't know. Gus Edwards. Gus Bus is old.
Gus is going to go back to Baltimore.
These like middling running backs who are now out of their rookie contract, like why, like what value do they bring to you that you can't just get on another like rookie contract for cheaper? You know what I mean?
Agree 100%.
Yep. Real quick. On that note, DeAndre Swift or Jahmyr Gibbs?
I think everyone knows the answer to that. But for what it's worth, he played really well this year. He actually stayed on the field, and had he been on a different offense that didn't, take him out on every 1 yard, goal line rush, like he actually could have ended up as like a really good, a ton of touchdowns and stuff. So
yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
But Gibbs to answer that question.
Yeah. Let's get into the wide receiver real quick here. We got Mike Evans. I think he stays in Tampa with Baker. I think they try to run it back one more time with this roster. They just made the playoffs. They were just into the divisional round with that roster. Why wouldn't you try to give it one more go as long as he tries to stay affordable?
Honestly, I think winning solves a lot of the problems that you might have been having. I think he was going into this last season thinking that they were probably going to suck like everybody did, and when they didn't, I mean, you made it pretty nice little run in the playoffs. Why not try it again?
Earlier, Wes said Baker wouldn't be the same without Evans, and I 100% agree. They would. They would like. Godwin does something totally different than Evans, and so I just think without Evans, Baker would not be the same. 100% agree.
Yeah, man, you just huck it down there, and Evans going to take care of the rest for you.
Yeah.
You ever see the Sandlot when he's like, "All right, just go out there, put your glove in the air." That's what happens with Mike Evans. He's like, "All right, just throw it." Anyway, OBJ, Curtis Samuel. Is it too much to talk about those two guys?
I don't think
who cares?
Any of them are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody here has got Tyler Boyd as the 2024 Adam Thielen. Is that like just a volume play for?
Yeah, I think it really will depend on where he goes, but I think he could follow the offensive coordinator from. This is where my head was at. He could follow what is his name, Callahan.
Brian
Callahan to Tennessee, and I think he
Phillips,
could be.
Come on.
Yeah, he could be a nice. he could be a nice piece for the Mayo Man, and alongside because I personally don't think much about Treylon Burks, so I think Tyler Boyd they need somebody. But if T Higgins goes there, then it could be.
Why not both?
And then
you could afford both. You really probably could.
Yeah. So,
I don't
but
think
he's
Boyd's
just
gonna
like
cost you much.
No.
He's just an older veteran. I kind of was thinking the same thing, like that was just kind of my thought there.
Sure. Yeah, definitely get it. Kendrick Bourne, Josh Reynolds. Josh is either going with Ben Johnson or he's just going to re-sign cheaply to stay with Jared Goff in Detroit.
Real quick on Tyler Boyd.
I think he's. Oh, go ahead.
He's free. Like, you can get him like in startups. I don't think he's been drafted yet. Like he's like free.
Let me go take care of that.
Or you can get him for like any third probably.
Yeah, he's super cheap.
Josh Reynolds, I think he stays in Detroit just to stay with Jared Goff. They have that connection all the way back to LA. I don't think anybody's going to pay him out the wazoo to actually leave. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Josh, please just stay. Hollywood, Marquise Brown.
I could see him going somewhere else and getting a fresh start. But I don't know. He's kind of like a middling, WR3 in my mind.
I think that's a little harsh.
Yeah, well, he was injured this year, so yeah, you're probably right. But I don't know. I just don't think too much about him.
I mean, that's fair. I really think though, if the Cardinals if they get Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4 and they re-sign Hollywood, that's a nice little repair. And to go with Trey McBride too, that's a nice little offense they got going on.
And Michael Wilson.
And I think when he's no longer the number one, because Hollywood played with CD, did he not, at Oklahoma?
I think they overlapped for a year. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I think they went out and got him. I think because they definitely played together. I remember that.
Yeah. If Hollywood is no longer the number one, I think that does a lot for the visual of him, and you don't have to force feed that guy targets.
He's not a one. Like Baltimore and Arizona tried to make him into that, and he's not.
He's not.
He's proved that. That's for sure.
I agree.
Calvin Ridley
finally done with his rookie contract. 6 years later.
That's so wild.
Cue the old lady. It's been 80 years, Jeff.
Oh, I feel like it's been longer than the 6 years, man. I feel like he played forever.
Yeah, I agree.
He's on that freaking Super Bowl team, was he not? With Julio and Matt Ryan?
Julio. Mm-hmm.
He was. Yep.
Jeez Louise. Man, what a time. What a time. Let's talk about the important guys here. T. Higgins, Michael Pittman. Big names. Does anybody go out to LA with Herbert and the newly appointed Jim Harbaugh?
No, because they have no money to get these guys.
Oh,
like,
that's true. That's true.
He's
Bad call there.
I actually, for what it's worth, I think Higgins probably gets franchise tagged, and I think Pittman probably does too. And they stay in their respective teams. I know it's always exciting with these big names, but more often than not, they end up
Yeah.
Out of these two, I would say T. Higgins would go somewhere else much more than Michael Pittman. I think Pittman stays in Indianapolis for sure. But Higgins was asking for a new contract, which not much, but a lot of guys ask for a new one. But I think I totally agree. I think they tag both of them, and they're back with their teams.
The Bengals have a ton of cap space. They have the fourth most cap space
Aren't
available.
they pay an offensive lineman?
Yeah.
They should.
Okay. Well, and they had to get Burrow's deal done, so I think that was the priority this last offseason. I think they'll take care of Higgins.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, somebody just made a draft pick. That's what that noise was. Gabe Davis, Rashid Shaheed are also free agents. I don't see an overly huge market for Shaheed. Gabe Davis is kind of just a name at this point, and one game against Kansas City in the playoffs 2 years ago now.
Might have been 3.
I forgot.
What a game it was. What a game it was, though.
Yeah, it was a great game, and it really boosted all of his averages.
I hate Gabe Davis. I hate Gabe Davis. Rashid had a solid year, though, to be honest. So
he'll probably stay in New Orleans, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think so too. He's either staying in New Orleans or he's going to go hang out with Sean in Denver and just do the same thing he's doing in New Orleans now.
That's a good call.
Move to tight end here. Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, Dalton Schultz, Gerald Everett, Noah Fant. Is there anybody we really overly care about other than myself and Hunter Henry, the touchdown machine?
Maybe Noah Fant, just because he actually was relevant not that long ago. He just didn't really fit in Seattle's offense. Man, I don't know. But this tight end class is gross.
If you need a tight end, go draft Brock Bowers. That's what you need to be doing. Don't worry about these these free agents.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of Texans games, but I feel like every Texans game that I got a chance to watch, Dalton Schultz just
he was an afterthought.
And just like the worst drops you could ever see. Like it looked like me playing in high school. They're like, nope, go to the defensive side of the ball, sir. You can't catch.
So Schultz was kind of like the call out of like Miles Sanders a bit, and he flopped big time.
That's not as fair. I mean, he had 700 yards and 6 touchdowns, which it wasn't like.
Yeah.
He basically did the same thing. Okay, so he basically did the same thing he did in Dallas. Like I pulled this up earlier. So the last 2 years in Dallas, he went 108 targets, 104 targets. In Houston, he was 93, right around 65 catches everywhere. He had like 75 in Dallas, so a little higher, but yardage about the same. He had 900 one year, but then he was 700 the year before, 715 this year. He was at 8 touchdowns in Dallas, and he went to 6 in Houston. So I think. I mean, me, and I'll speak for myself. I expected him to have more because I didn't think the receivers in Houston were going to step up as like they did. And so they just didn't end up needing him to be like the focal point of the offense. Like I think that's
Nico Collins was on like the 7-year breakout plan, dude. I've been hearing about him from Michigan fans forever, dude. About Nico Collins. I'm like, dude, at this point, it never happened, and then it did happen.
It happened, baby. But yeah, I know. I think that's where I'm coming from with Schultz. I thought, they don't have much at wide receiver, but then Nico and Tank Dell both, showed out. So I think that's kind of what took away from with Schultz, and he kind of didn't look like he did much. But I should have looked up my stats before saying that.
It's just like a feel thing. But do any of these guys get contracts anywhere where they are fantasy relevant next year, or are they all kind of dead in the water?
I don't think so. I mean, I think like Hunter Henry, he gets some touchdowns. I think I think if any of them get connected to a solid offense, it's possible they could do something, but I don't think any of them are going to be really fantasy relevant. I think the only one possible could be Dalton Schultz.
I think Fant
So-
could, especially if he goes to, let's say he goes to Miami, because they don't have a tight end worth anything, and he's
Carolina,
fast-ish,
Washington,
fast adjacent.
fast adjacent.
There are actually a few places that need a tight end.
Yeah, I mean,
But do
Carolina,
you not just draft one though?
Washington.
The tight ends in this class are. It's not like last year by any means,
Yeah.
but I mean,
No.
outside of Bowers, right? But
Yeah.
Jachavian Sanders is a decent athlete. I mean, Ben Sinnott from Kansas State, Kate Stover at Ohio State are all pretty good. Jaheim Bell isn't terrible.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Brock Bowers, I feel like you might get a little more production out of these. Obviously, not Mike Gesicki, but I feel like Fant, Everett, Schultz, and Henry. I think you can get a little more production out of them than one of these younger guys. But I don't think anybody is really going to be fantasy relevant.
No, not outside the odd touchdown. We're probably talking more best ball targets here than anything.
100%.
And you actually want to throw into your lineup.
That's how the tight ends are though after the top 7. To be
that's
fair.
Like that is
very
fair.
True.
You guys got any other parting thoughts? Any other big wisdoms?
Big wisdoms? No.
No big wisdoms for me. Sorry. Other than what Mitch said in the Discord. What's that smell? Rookies in a startup, baby. Let's go.
I'm so glad that I got into one freaking a week early on the rookies joining in, so now I have to do one with the rookies for sure.
I kind of want to. I think I want to wait till once they get drafted. Now, after I did 2 startups, so I think I'm all right for now until
you can do one more.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. No, we should definitely do one without draft landing spots. It's way more fun.
It is. I'm doing it right now, and it's very fun.
Oh, you are doing it right now, so I guess
Fantasy Effect.
You do another.
Fantasy Effect 4.
Exactly.
As long as I'm not commissioning it or handling the safe.
Don't let Ron handle anything.
All right. We're looking for commissioners. Please come let us know if you want to commission or be a commissioner of a fantasy.
We'll play with you. The Chicago Bears of podcast will be on there for you.
We'll pay you with our company. So, all right. On that note, see you guys later.
Peace out.
Peace.